Welcome. My name is Kevin Scott. I'm professor and chair of the Department of English at the University of West Florida in the College of Arts, Social Sciences, and Humanities. And I'm here with Jefferson Cowie, the James G. Stahlman Professor of History at Vanderbilt University. I'm talking to Professor Cowie because in 2023, his book, Freedom's Dominion, a Saga of White Resistance to Federal Power, won the 2023 Pulitzer Prize in History. In next week, March 14th, downtown Pensacola at the Rex Theater, we're hosting an evening with Jefferson Cowie, and we'll be talking about his book and Eastern Alabama, what it charts. So, Professor Cowie, thank you for chatting with me for a few minutes promotionally to support our event next week. The book certainly lives up to its title. It is an epic saga. It follows about 200 years of history in East Alabama, specifically Barber County, and often the city of Eufaula. The book charts how the white citizens in this region used an ideology of freedom defined really as the freedom to dominate to justify the removal first of the Creek Indians and later on the enslavement and into the 20th century, the disenfranchisement of African Americans. So it's a kind of a bitter linkage that you create, this linkage between freedom and domination, suggesting that the two ideas are somewhat inextricably linked in American history. One thing that I noticed, though, as I read the book, is that when we start in the early 1800s, it feels as if the ideology is fully invested, that the folks who are promoting this brand of freedom are complete believers that freedom does also necessarily include this freedom to dominate. As we move into the 20th century, though, it gets fuzzier. It starts to feel like this ideology slides into becoming almost more a tactic for some figures, especially George Wallace, whom you chart often painfully and often somewhat humorously. So can you tell us a bit about this evolution from a deep investment in the ideology to one in which it becomes a bit fuzzier and also becomes explicitly a tactic?
I think that's you put your finger on a core question, Kevin. That's I mean, it's honestly an insightful read of the book, and maybe a little bit of a kind of loose bolt in the thinking. But the idea of freedom as a capacity to dominate is inherited, I think, early on. It's not created necessarily on the ground in the early 19th century, but it goes all the way back to ancient societies, ancient republics, through Jefferson, through Jackson, and onward. The question is, at that point, there's a material interest, I think, in both the land that they want to access, and freedom was land under Jacksonian America. And then the capacity to enslave, the freedom to enslave also had a material interest. But after emancipation, right, it becomes a little fuzzier. And then after the decline of the cotton economy, it becomes increasingly fuzzier. And you have essentially an ideology that's sort of running on the fumes well after the material interest has exhausted itself. And now you essentially have a set of ideas that remain powerful, but not always directly connected to economic interest.
So thank you very much for taking this time today. I want to remind anybody watching the video that this is preparatory to our Downtown Lecture Series event next week, March 14th at the Rex Theater at 6 p.m. For free tickets, simply go to the UWF website and do a search for Jefferson Cowie. That'll take you to the page where you can register for free tickets. Thank you very much, and I hope to see you next week.